I've been on chemo for pretty much 4.5 years now. My colonoscopy was on a Friday afternoon. That's always the worst thing, right? When you get a diagnosis like this on a Friday and you gotta wait a couple of days for everything to happen. My pathology came back Monday. My gastroenterologist called me and said, hey, this is where we're at. It's cancer like I thought. We need to put a team together. And so I selected an oncologist that I felt was right for me, a radiation oncologist and a surgeon all at that time. A week later, I was in the OR getting a port placed, which all of my infusions go through. It's beautiful, it's awesome, it's the greatest thing in the world. And then I had chemo on day 10. So I mean, I was in quick. The thing kind of with chemo is that the suck is the same, whether it's treatment 1 or 100. When I talked about that Vectibix med that's worked really well for me, that has some pretty significant side effects. There's a couple of them that are kind of cool, and a lot of them that are not. It gives me a terrible rash with pustulous acne in all of my hair follicles. I manage it with an antibiotic. You get, the pustules in your mouth, in your gums, all over your lips, in your cracks of your nose, in your eyes. Cracks all in your fingers that are like paper cuts. You will have infections that just pop up in your cuticles. I don't heal very well with it. If I cut myself, what would have healed in 3 or 4 days is 3 or 4 weeks. One of the funny side effects is my eyelashes grow incredibly fast on this medicine, or spider leg eyelashes. And so my wife cuts them every month. For $52,000 a month, you too can have these eyelashes, but you're not gonna like the other side effects. The initial surgery that I had was called a lower anterior resection, and mine was ultra low anterior resection. So my tumor was very close to the anus, just 2 centimeters from there. We were originally kind of concerned that either we're gonna end up with a permanent colostomy, or we're going to be able to put back together. He removed the section of the rectum, and we had clean margins, meaning that they took more further from each side of where the cancer was growing, and then hooked me back together. And then I had what's called an ileostomy for about 2 months. Once we felt everything was good and healed, then I went in and I had my ileostomy reversed. And that was tough. That was probably one of the hardest things after the reversal, because I had to learn how to not just defecate everywhere. I lost all of my muscle tone. It's because I hadn't used those sphincters for months. Nothing had gone through there. And so that was difficult for me. I had a lot of accidents. I wore diapers. It scared me for months. I didn't trust, myself and being able to, because all of a sudden you get a pants full of poo, and what do you do, and of course at the most inopportune time. Several months after that, I got real sick and we couldn't figure it out. I didn't have any respiratory infection or anything like that. It's the middle of summer, I'm having these terrible fevers, and I have fatigue like I've never had before, worse than I ever had with chemo. I went back in and I'm like, geez, something's going on. So they worked me up again, and it turns out that I had developed a fistula, which sometimes happens with chemo. Your cells don't really know kind of what to do, and they just tend to form these channels. And so what was happening was stool was moving into my pelvis. Back to the surgeon, and he says, well, we can try to fix it. It could happen again. He goes, you might end up with colostomy after this. I wake up in the operating room and I go, oh, and I have a colostomy. That was tough, because now I have a permanent colostomy and I have to manage this thing forever. Managing an ostomy is difficult because your skin is not used to the stuff. There's leaks, there's different things. There's so much more that you have to worry about. I was really upset about that, super depressed. And it was at that time that I had elected to retire, stop working. Everything was just so overwhelming, and I couldn't get my job done anymore. The colostomy hasn't been bad, and I look at it, and initially I was really upset by it. And now, knowing that I have to have chemo forever, and I'm on the toilet 10 times a day anyway, this piece of cake. Trying to find the silver linings in all of this stuff is really, really important. To keep a good positive mindset with it. As long as I'm on chemo, let's just keep it. It's working. I haven't had any problems. It's kind of a pain to manage, but you get used to it, and it is what it is. When I was first diagnosed, I was so scared. My daughter's best friend, her father was going through colorectal cancer. And so she's like, Dad, you got to call Mike. And so Mike Kuntz is his name. He was a fireman in town, and he passed a few years back. He taught me how to fight this thing. And I met with him originally, and he says, all right, this is where you're at. This is what's going to happen. This is what you need to do. Once you get your port in, you have treatment, you call me. We communicated a lot, and I was in rough shape. And I would call him in the middle of the night. I would call him, he'd be at dinner, and he would always get me through it. And so I thought, I need to be somebody else's Mike, And so it was great to have that. He wasn't I'm sorry to hear this is so terrible. It was like, get your ass up, let's go. And that's what I did. He's very special to me. I didn't know him before this, and so unfortunately, he was on the same meds I was on. He didn't respond like I did. That's hard. And you question why are they not doing well? Why am I doing so well with this? So it's helpful for me to talk about that, and to try to help other people get through that same situation. Yeah, I still talk to him, just differently now. I've always said he's my caddy. I took him a little ball marker with his name and badge number to Tucson with me when I played in the Pro-Am. That's where I marked my ball with, and he was my caddy and, helped me through that whole thing. I'm with this group called Town, and it's a wonderful support group. You have these different neighborhoods that you can be a part of, and interacting a lot with the patients, people at Town. They came and they said, hey, would you be interested in attending the Cologuard Classic? It's put on by Cologuard, which is a screening tool for colorectal cancer. They says, well, there might be a chance that you can play in the Pro-Am. We do a drawing for that. So I was chosen to play in the Pro-Am to represent Town and at the Cologuard Classic. And that my pro would be, was a guy by the name of Jerry Kelly. Comes the day of the golf tournament, we get out and we start playing, and things are going, I was nervous, just super nervous. We play 3 or 4 or 5 holes. I'm walking off the tee box after my shot, and this golf cart comes flying down, and my daughter's in it. And I'm like, what are you doing here? She's like, I came to see you. So it was very exciting to see her, and I'm crying and I'm introducing her to everybody in my group and Jerry, and he was like, well, I want to see her play. So he brought her on. He says, you're playing the next hole with us. She doesn't want anybody watching her. She's nervous, right? So we pull up, or we're on the tee and we're waiting, and you hear this golf cart screaming down, and they hit the skids, and Jerry jumps out and he goes, I'm glad I could make it for this. And Riley's just getting ready to hit, and then of course hits a great shot and pars the hole. That was just awesome to be able to have that experience. They've dropped the screening age now for colonoscopies down to 45. A screening is great. Colonoscopy is gold standard, and it's a hell of a lot easier than 103 rounds of chemo, multiple surgeries, ostomy bags, the chemical concussions, the fatigue, the complete change of life. I think the biggest thing is advocating for getting people screened.